Quite a few big influencers on social media are afraid of standing out, and it's becoming more and more apparent to me. The algorithm might play a part because it seems like it rewards conformity over creativity, and the path towards monetization is more about whether you're palatable over having a big personality. This might be why we're seeing an epidemic of what some people are calling boring influencers, and they're all seeming the same. Recently, people on social media have been commenting on the borification of influencer culture, and this is essentially a phenomenon where content creators, often in major cities like New York, they seem to be producing literally the same content. It's day in the life vlogs featuring the same activities and aesthetics, and it's become so normalized that we're even seeing parodies of what people are calling the influencer voice.
Come with me to da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, to da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, to do-do-do-do.
But I'm noticing that this borification isn't just about the algorithmic rewards that they receive or the similar marketing strategies that they're employing. It's actually reflecting something deeper. So in this video, that's what we're going to be discussing: the much criticized boring influencer phenomenon. And it might actually be a window into America's shifting landscape, because we are seeing a shift from more progressive individualism towards a more traditional and risk-averse presentation of self. And it prioritizes conformity over creativity. So yeah, let's get into that. What's up YouTube, it's tinysey, and if you find that you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And welcome to my digital garden. So this whole conversation began when a TikTok creator, Martini Feeney, posted a now viral video calling out the homogeneity of influencer content. So let's take a look at that.
All right, guys, I'm just going to say it. I hate all of the New York influencers. I think that they're boring as fuck, and they're all carbon copies of one another. They all wear the same exact fucking bracelet. They all have the same exact fucking handchain that someone else influenced them to get. Yeah. They all look like they shop on Revolve. They're all just like basic ass skinny, but they're skinny and pretty, so stuff looks cute on them, but boring. No hate. They just bore the fuck out of me. Does anyone else agree? Like, I feel like they should be the influencees, not the influencers. I don't know. Not even the New York ones. Just like all the, like, these girls, they all get panic attacks. They all shop on Revolve. They all yeah, boring. Let me know if anyone agrees.
So this video is resonating with a lot of people that are also feeling the same sense of boredom and that feeling of deja vu when they're scrolling through their feeds. And they're noticing the fact that we essentially are viewing the same creator in slightly different bodies. And what I found particularly revealing was the reactions that a lot of the influencers had to these original criticisms. Rather than it causing these influencers to reflect and maybe change their content, they became very defensive.
All right, guys, I'm just going to say it. I hate all of the New York influencers. I think that they're boring as fuck, and they're all carbon copies of one another. They all wear the same exact fucking bracelet. They all have the same exact fucking handchain that someone else influenced them to get. Yeah. They all look like they shop on Revolve. They're all just like basic ass skinny, but they're skinny and pretty, so stuff looks cute on them, but boring. No hate. They just bore the fuck out of me.
This influencer on the left is Acquired Style, and they have a decent sized platform. I think they have around, let's just actually find out. Yes, this influencer has 1.5 million followers on TikTok, and they posted this reaction, and clearly they were quite triggered by what this influencer or this other content creator was saying. Not only did they delete the video, but before that, they also turned the comments off. And the fact that the creators who responded weren't even specifically called out or named in the original critique makes it seem as though there could have been some sort of awareness that their content lacked some form of distinctiveness. But beyond the drama and defensive reactions is a question that I felt was worth exploring. What does this widespread homogeneity tell us about the current social media landscape? To really figure this out, we need to dive into how influencer content is actually reflecting these broader social shifts towards conservative values and traditional aesthetics. Speaking about connections, let me tell you about something that's been a game changer in my own relationship. Okay, everybody, let's be real. Keeping a strong connection in a relationship takes effort, but it should also be fun. My partner and I have begun using the Paired app, and it's been very insightful for us to use. I'm someone who loves to learn and grow, and whether you're just getting to know your crush or you're already in a relationship, the Paired app is a fun and easy way to take care of your relationship. It's the ultimate relationship companion app designed to help you understand your partner or future partner better through fun quizzes, daily questions, and expert-backed insights. And the best part is you can't see your partner's answers until you answer yourself. And trust me, this is the part that's made it even more fun for us to do. You can also create a timeline of your most important relationship moments. So if you want to remember your anniversary or a pivotal milestone, they got you. These memories are super easy to add using photos, locations, as well as descriptions. And this will help you never forget your shared journey together. So if you're ready to empower your relationship, click the link below to get a 7-day free trial and 25% off Paired Premium, because great relationships start with understanding each other. Thank you to our sponsor, the Paired app, and back to the borification of influencer culture. Okay, so to understand our current moment, we need to examine the aesthetic journeys of the past decade. Around 2016 to 2020, influencer culture was in what we might call its baddie era. This aesthetic dominated a lot of social media culture, and it was popularized by socialites like the Kardashians. It was all about the dramatic curves, bold fashion choices, and very ostentatious displays of luxury. You could call it flex culture. This was the era of what people call BBL fashion, because we definitely saw a rise in cosmetic surgery, and a sort of ethnic ambiguity was the beauty standard at this time, so think Kardashian types. During this time, a lot of influencers would get fillers and get bigger lips. They would get BBLs, and this was essentially that baddie aesthetic. Places like Fashion Nova were at their peak, and it wasn't uncommon to see dramatic contouring as maximalist makeup styles were in. They kind of call it prom makeup, but it was an everyday thing at this time. But this era wasn't just about the visual choices that were being made. It was also a time of unprecedented social movements and cultural transformation. The Me Too movement was super empowering for women to speak more openly about sexual harassment and assault. The modern wave of LGBTQ+ rights gained a lot of momentum, and there was more visibility and acceptance of the diverse gender identities and sexual orientations in mainstream media. There were also a lot of sex positivity movements that were challenging the shame-based narratives that we've been so used to, and it was encouraging more open discussions around pleasure and consent and autonomy. So the digital content during this time was also reflecting these movements. A lot of influencers would openly discuss the topics that were previously considered more taboo. Whether that was about gender identity or political activism, it was a lot more open. Body positivity was also flourishing, and it was challenging traditional beauty standards by celebrating all the diverse body types that we have. Fast forward to today, and things couldn't be more different. In place of what was more progressive and expressive, we now see content that celebrates conformity and traditional values. It's often packaged as wellness, soft life content, self-care, and like clean living. The dominant aesthetic has become very beige, or old money as they're calling it now. It's neutral color palettes, minimal makeup targeted as clean girl looks, the slick back pony, Pilates and low impact workouts, green juices, farmers market hauls, and it's ultimately just a conventional lifestyle, very much the American dream. This shift from being bolder to being more subdued isn't just a swing of the style pendulum. It mirrors a broader cultural retreat that's happening throughout American society. We're turning away from progressive thought and seeing the reemergence of traditional values around gender, sexuality, family structure, and especially individual expression. The social movements that defined this era of 2016 to 2020 haven't disappeared, but the visibility and cultural dominance have definitely diminished. And instead, we're seeing the rise of content that subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, reinforces more conservative views. And this is often without influencers explicitly acknowledging the political nature of these content choices. The question we need to ask is, why have these specific aesthetics and lifestyles become so dominant on social media? I found this really interesting article, so let's take a look at that. Here we have it: shiny blowouts, chic fashion, and West Village reservations. These Insta-perfect lives are managed by one woman. You might call Shauna Davis Ross a Dr. Frankenstein for the influencer marketing era. What she's fashioned isn't a monster exactly, but a woman with an algorithmically convertible Manhattan life. Her creation works out at Aloe Yoga's invite-only gym, grabs afternoon Aperol spritz with her girlfriends, dines at the hottest restaurants, and always seems to have a perfect blowout. So essentially, this manager has created her agency and she manages all these people that do the same things, kind of like the previous creator was criticizing. And it sounds like she did this because it's algorithmically convertible, it performs. It says that in 5 years, she's gone from 0 to around 80 clients, and she scores lucrative brand deals and advises them on social media posting and long-term business strategies. She has a lot of people that she is managing, but here are just a few that they are calling out. She's managing people that have 43,000 all the way to 1 million. So that's quite a range. And it seems like the neighborhood most of them live in is the West Village. And a lot of these influencers are capturing that moment where they're in their 20s or early 30s. So focusing on friendship, going out, figuring out who they are. A very marketable time. Gucci bag, iced tea in hand, a lot of OTDs. They feature brands like Reformation, Chanel, Miu Miu. And obviously those aren't cheap and affordable brands. So very much aspirational content. And we kind of get an idea of the demographic of influencer that's doing this. They have long, shiny, blonde hair, and this style can be described as quiet luxury. And this illustrates that shift towards conservatism because quiet luxury and that old money aesthetic very much aligns with conservative ideologies. I found that this article doesn't fully explain why the winning formula has become so conservative in both aesthetics and values. So for that, I had to look into brand partnerships and that landscape. There have been various controversies surrounding progressive creators, like with the Bud Light controversy, where Bud Light partnered with a transgender influencer, and by doing this, they got boycotted by conservatives, and they're still trying to recover to this day. And so because of controversies like this, brands are going with creators that are safer bets. And that's influencers whose content and presentation are reducing the potential for controversy or backlash. So the influencers that are creating content centered around traditional lifestyle elements, so that can be conventional home lives, mainstream wellness or self-care practices, and apolitical messaging, they seem to be receiving more partnership opportunities than those creating the boundary pushing or politically engaged content. And I've noticed this both on YouTube and on platforms like TikTok. The more generic you are, the better your revenue possibilities. And a lot of YouTubers talk about being shadow banned. Even on TikTok, like you can't say certain words or the algorithm will suppress your content. And so anyone that is talking about things in this space automatically are kind of a red flag. And it's not just about the content they make, but it's also how the person that's making it looks, but we'll get more into that later. I think that this risk-averse approach that brands are using is also influencing the content landscape. Like the influencer manager Shauna Davis figured out, if the path to monetization is through conservative-leaning content that's disguised as traditional lifestyle content, then the market's naturally just going to shift in that direction. This conservative shift is also extremely evident in the rise of trad wife and stay-at-home girlfriend content. These are videos that celebrate domestic activities, so partner-focused living and traditional gender roles. The videos will often feature a conventionally attractive young woman that's preparing some sort of elaborate meal, like with Nara Smith, and it's usually for their partner, and they're also single-handedly cleaning the whole home or completing some other domestic task. But these sorts of videos have garnered billions of views across a lot of social media platforms, and so creators that make this type of content will frame it as a personal lifestyle choice, and it is. But the popularity of this content shows us the broader cultural shift towards traditional values. And it really contrasts the more progressive messaging that dominated social media just a few years ago. And that's not to say that every influencer that's creating this type of content personally embraces conservative politics, but more so that it reflects how economic and algorithmic incentives have aligned to reward this type of content. And it's clearly resonating with an audience that is seeking this comfort of tradition and conventional lifestyles and aspirational lifestyles. Another huge aspect of the borification of content is demographics. And the beige aesthetic, soft life content that is taking over people's feeds is often created by white influencers.
Seeing the same girls and the same creators talking about the same things and going to do the same things as they do the same things when they do the same things, as we talk about these creators doing the same things as they do those same things. Well, we actually are tired as well as seeing you guys complain over the same people and same things, as there's a clear and obvious solution, which is just to follow an entirely different type of demographic of people who live within the same city that might not be in the same.
Did you guys hear a gust of wind? What's a black creator? Do they even live in New York?
And then she kept saying about the same things and same people. How does she know I don't follow those people?
Right, who do you follow?
Well, I don't, but how does she know?
Exactly, I follow Beyonce.
It's absolutely
Does anybody
insane.
else hate women just
I
as
don't
much
even
as
know
me?
what could
Does he
be
even talk
happening.
about blonde
It's
hair?
just the way they
He
straighten
didn't
her
link
hair.
the lip gloss.
Yeah, they just keep straightening it.
Bleach.
And then it straightens. Yeah.
Dyson.
That girl straightens their
And they
hair
make
one-
lattes.
She went to a workout class.
Oh my God.
And yes. And
Don't
they
forget
all
the
go to this
lattes.
workout class. It's by membership. Well, I don't mean to impose. It's just that you guys talk about the same things on the For You page every single year, and it's clogging up actual issues that need to be talked. Shut up.
He just adopted another dog and I'm bored again.
write
I
that
think
down
she
for
bought another workout set.
Yes, write that down for Reddit.
And why
Yes.
does she have a vocal fry? We don't talk like
Oh,
that.
that's so
have
good.
the safe
Oh, that's
space
so good. We should all meet back here next year.
This is the best idea ever.
Yeah, so essentially what this video was illustrating, in my opinion, was how Black creators will speak up and say, hey, diversify the content you watch. I mean, if you're complaining, if you want to see something interesting, and essentially it's like screaming into the void. No one hears you. They don't want to hear you. They just want to dance. Research consistently shows that creators of color face significant barriers in the influencer economy, and whether that's trying to be seen or get equal pay for brand deals, they face a lot of issues. Black creators will often earn less than white creators for comparable content and audience sizes. So let's take a look at an article that dives into this a little bit more. The darker you are, the less you're worth, the influencer pay gap. Okay. So Jessica Joseph, who runs a British influencer agency with a diverse talent base, says she noticed a change in attitude from advertisers at the height of the BLM movement. And this is when they really wanted Black voices. This is when they wanted to actually work with the Black creators. Now the contact has stopped. We don't even get a response to our emails, not even the courtesy of a no. But the benefits are not distributed equally. Long rumbling concerns about pay inequality within the industry are not being addressed. According to a report this month, with white influencers on average making over 50% more than some of their BAME counterparts, Joseph, who runs Season 25, an influencer agency that promotes diversity in its roster, says interest in her clients has changed since BLM peaked in 2020 to 2021. A pay gap report from the UK-based 76 agency shows that influencers of Southeast Asian descent made an average of £700 a sponsored video post on Instagram, which was 57% less than the average £1,638 for white influencers. South Asian, Black, and East Asian influencers are also paid lower amounts, with average fees of £1,135, £1,080, and £1,010 respectively. So here they say it really well. A lot of the perceived improvement in equality within the influencer industry is performative, and that inclusion is sometimes done only for the sake of what she describes as ticking boxes. If, say, 100 influencers are attending an event, probably 80 of them will be white. The other 20 will be mostly Black. Some people don't understand what diversity actually means because they aren't from diverse backgrounds or don't have diverse friend groups. Even if genuine attempts to diversify events are made, they often miss the mark and don't include a full mix of groups. Influencers of Asian descent, for example, are sometimes left out entirely. Stephanie Yeboah, 35, has been an influencer on Instagram for 10 years, amassing 250,000 followers in the process and working alongside brands such as Lego, Pirani, and Dove. Yet to her, the content creation industry is still an uneven and at times discriminatory world. So it really is just showing that there is a gap between white influencers and Black influencers, Asian influencers, really any influencer of color. It's problematic because they're not being paid the same for putting in the same amount of effort. I've even heard that brands will pay white influencers with less followers more than an ethnic influencer with a larger following, and that's because they believe the white influencer will translate to more sales. These disparities are reflecting how the safe aesthetic that brands and algorithms reward tend to center white creators and traditional Western beauty standards. And this algorithmic preference that white creators receive create a feedback loop, hence the boring copy-paste content. When more diverse or boundary-pushing content receives less support, it reinforces the dominance of conventional and now more conservative aesthetics and messaging. The homogenization of influencer content reflects our broader political reality in America. We're in a period where conservatives are pushing back against how progressive things have become in the past decade. And the reason this shift on social media has flown under the radar was probably because it's been fed to us somewhat discreetly. The clean girl aesthetic isn't marketed as a return to traditional femininity, but instead it's marketed as a wellness choice. The stay-at-home girlfriend content isn't framed as an endorsement of traditional gender roles, but as a luxury lifestyle, which a lot of people find appealing. And with this repackaging of conservative values as aspirational, this content becomes more appealing and less likely to be criticized. But I have to add, that's not to say people weren't pointing these changes out, because especially on YouTube, people were discussing the problematic nature of trad wife content, stay-at-home girlfriend content, and quiet luxury content. But a lot of people didn't realize quite how impactful this shift would actually be. The effects became more clear in the recent presidential election results, and that was when people truly recognized the influence this content has had on the younger generation. But by the time they noticed, it was already too late, because there was a notable increase in conservative votes amongst Gen Z and women as a whole. And research shows that more women are on social media, with TikTok specifically having 54% female users. So the majority of these users are under the age of 30. So this content that's being created directly targets this demographic. And by influencers marketing and packaging their content in this palatable, apolitical way, its effects have subtly taken a hold. I also found that the technical side, or the algorithms, are also playing a part in this whole phenomena. We know how algorithms are supposed to technically work. They are curating our online world. They're determining what we see based on our viewing behaviors, interactions, and preferences. But the problem with this is that many creators of color find that their content is hidden or very hard to discover. And this is an algorithm bias that systematically disadvantages certain groups of people. It's occurring because certain populations are underrepresented in the data used to actually train these AI algorithms, or even just because pre-existing societal prejudices are baked into the data itself. I think that these platforms do have some sort of responsibility for this homogenization of content. I mean, especially because they designed the systems that are prioritizing this certain demographic. And if you want to see anything different, you kind of have to jump through hoops or actively seek it and engage with it. Otherwise, the algorithm will push and reward the same conforming content. So some regulatory approaches could probably help with this. So the EU's Digital Service Act is already requiring platforms to provide greater algorithm transparency and content diversity. And similar regulations in the US could require platforms to demonstrate that their recommendation systems don't systemically disadvantage certain creator demographics or viewpoints. A few platforms that are already testing some alternative approaches is Pinterest, because they recently adjusted their algorithm to ensure more diversity in content that's recommended to you. And smaller platforms like Mastodon are also experimenting with a chronological feed that doesn't rely on engagement-based sorting. And Instagram has also brought back chronological feed if you want to. I think you have to actually enable it. Although I think it's easy to criticize the influencers for producing this type of content, and that's kind of what I've been doing, we also have to acknowledge the audience's role in all of this, because the algorithm suggests content, but ultimately viewers choose what to watch, like, share, and follow. So these mainstream influencers have risen to these heights because that's what people clearly like to watch. And the uncomfortable truth is that the people who claim to want diverse and interesting content don't always seek this content out. They're often contributing to the dominance of this type of content because of their engagement patterns. And the algorithm will quickly pick up on this because they've gotten it down to a science at this point. This is creating a challenging dynamic where the creators and the platforms can say, hey, look at the user engagement, and that will be a sort of justification for the content that they create and the platforms are promoting. They could kind of just say we're giving the people what they want, and it technically won't be a lie. So it's more so up to the individual to intentionally shift their viewing patterns if they actually want different and entertaining content. Social media is very big, so you can literally never bump into some of this content if you change your viewing habits. So it can kind of seem a bit telling if your feed is boring and non-diverse. Despite all of the financial and algorithmic incentives towards this more subdued conservative content, there are some signs of resistance and potential for change. I think the fact that this criticism of boring influencers has even gone viral has shown me that there is a growing desire for more diverse, authentic, and unique content. And thankfully, this critique is creating space for conversations about algorithm bias, brand responsibility, and the value of having diverse perspectives on social media. There's also plenty of creators that have successfully carved out their own niches by rejecting the dominant aesthetic and embracing their own unique approach. On YouTube, there's Khadija, who I love to watch. She has quite a large following. She definitely has unapologetically progressive content, and she examines pop culture through an intersectional lens. So there are people like her that are pushing the envelope and still succeeding despite everything that is trying to subdue Black creators like this. And in the near future, we might start to see more brands recognize the business opportunity in partnering with these creators who stand out. That doesn't mean it'll be with pure intentions, because businesses go where the money's at, but hopefully it will incentivize people to be different and practice unique self-expression instead of conformity. Since the influencer space is becoming more saturated with similar content, the more distinctive voices will offer companies a way to differentiate themselves and connect with audiences that are seeking that sort of authenticity. Being able to understand that this shift is part of a larger cultural backlash, it helps us see beyond the individual content creator to the systems that actually have the power and are shaping what we see and value online. So as the conversation that was sparked by that initial video continues to gain momentum, hopefully people will begin to seek out and support more diverse and authentic content. I'm personally not on board with the borification of influencer culture and by proxy, just culture at large. And I think that diversity is what makes the world so interesting. So if people really aren't liking what's happening, hopefully they actually support these creators that are more diverse. But how do you guys feel about this whole influencer landscape, and what does your feed look like? Who are you following? If you made it this far in the video, please post the camera emoji. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next discussion.